I suppose maybe the one thing that I'll add on ownership and all that is it seems to me like, in particular with images, but I expect there's probably in product generation, in, copywriting or whatever, there are substantial tragedy of the commons issues. So like my name's Eric Pratum. If you go and look at ericpratum.com, I let that domain lapse like 3 years ago. Someone bought it. Why? Because I had a lot of inbound links. And now they generate junk content, but they get to redirect things to some, website where they're selling something after the fact, right? Well, what happens when somebody who really doesn't care that much about being right in the heart of Google's various algorithms, but rather they just want to eke out, 0.1% of the total search results that they could get because they're generating things at scale, and they can afford to generate 1,000 blog posts or 1,000 different images. And not only are we impacted by that because it fills up our search results, it uses processing power that we end up paying for in one way or another. We have
environment.
We have exactly. There all of these things. The cognitive load from scrolling through Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and you just have all of these things that maybe you never would have looked at before. And then on top of that, you have issues with, well, at what point does it cross the line from, being inspired by or not copying someone's piece of artwork or whatever, and it crosses the line into, no, this is just a direct copy, And how is it that artists or copywriters or whoever can defend themselves when we go from a point of, 3x, 4x, 5x, the amount of stuff that you as an individual have to review and see, might this be built on my stuff? I mean, there's so many issues where, perhaps to one of the statements you made, you have to get to a point where you are using a tool to notify you. You might want to go and look and see that this is derivative of your work.
The artist stealing has been an issue before AI too. You had Marvin Gaye and Robin Thicke lawsuit, right? That was even before this, but that just becomes exponentially more challenging. Is there anything else you guys want to say on ethical considerations before we?
There is a program I just remembered called Nightshade that you can put that artists are using to help facilitate their art a little bit differently. So like if it gets picked up, it tells the AI that this particular dog is actually a cat, so that when it uses something likewise into generative art, it picks up the wrong signal. So they're getting close. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Questions for the audience? We have several. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. We're going back to the legal ramifications. If you're inputting your client's data in, maybe it could be proprietary data. What happens to that in terms of legality? Secrets or your brand strategy. You're trying to come up with that. Thoughts on that?
I can weigh in, but I know it's really your area.
You anonymize it. So like you take out all the domains or anything that lead it back to the particular client brand. You just leave the numbers. Numbers are numbers. And so if you're looking for a particular output of something that, let's say, I need insights from months 1, 2, 3, you can certainly do that. The way I use it is I knew I needed output from an analysis on different JSON files. And I took all the domains out. I took out anything that could be tied to the company whatsoever, because I knew it's not anonymous in that back end. And so anything I put in there, I made sure itself, like if I looked at the file and go, well, I can't tell who it is. And so I made sure there was nothing else in there. So not even like the particular pass that they called it, they had internal terminology that I took out and made something else in there. So it wouldn't pick that up. So I scrubbed through the file pretty comprehensively before I put it into the thing.
I think your question was amazing because it is the last thing a lot of people think about. I had considered the same, and anonymizing is the best way. When I thought of that before, I thought, gosh, it's somewhere where the industry could go. it'll be interesting to see if we go to a place where we can use AI but still protect some of your data. So now, now that they have a sub-product for different categories, where you can protect some of that data and only lives within your AI environment, but still pulling from a broader learning model. So I'd be interesting to see if we go that way. I just want to echo what you said earlier about AI and how long it's been around. I'm hoping it's being used in medicine far beyond an idea that I had about it. It has been around for so long, and it's very true. It is like the shiny new thing in our world because it's so much more accessible. Phones let us all be photographers. Let us all be content creators and experts on anything that's important to us today. And I think AI is opening that door for us. I do just want to encourage, don't be afraid to use it. And it's okay if you don't use it. I don't use it a lot. I'm not going to lie. Do I use a lot of tools that use it? Sure. I'm starting to see it in MailChimp. There's prompts. Muckrack, the PR, the PR database, the PR tool. That's really cool. If any of you are in PR using that, Muckrack has an AI base now to it where it can identify when you should be sending your release. And it's different than the other algorithms because it's not like that hasn't been around, but what reporters are picking up what should your press release say? Because based on the other traction of other press. So there are ways like AI, like you said, I don't think the broader public cares about it as much as we do. I know my husband doesn't care about it as much as I talk about it, but he's great about that. But it's very true. It's so in our world, but there's ways that consumers probably are being exposed to AI without realizing it. And I'm starting to see it so much more on a lot of the tools we're using or that we subscribe to. But some of that's just going to be education and awareness. If you go to Google or if you're on Bing and you see they're testing a new tool, sometimes I test it just because I'm in this space, but other times I'm like, I don't have time for that right now. I know exactly what I want, and I'm not going to see if you're fancy enough to deliver what I need. But I think it'll be very interesting to see if AI evolves and we start seeing more, I would say, hubs or products where some of our data is more protected so that we can import it into the learning model and get more out of it. So that's a great question.
Yep.
With GPT-4 and other public large language models moving into that data processing space, do you expect that to evolve to be a viable long-term solution for those small to medium-sized companies that don't have the engineers and are easily able to make those internal tools? Or do you think that they will also need to evolve and make those internal language models?
Well, first off, they would need to hire a company, Archtype Consulting. I think it goes both ways. It depends on how they're comfortable with GPT-4 and how they're comfortable with uploading their data and what they get out of it. Creating a learning model and creating data sets and having the infrastructure to have your own BI department, basically. It's quite a big undertaking. So I think it's dependent on the company model and how they want to scale. I think, that's the next 4 ways. You could look online and there's constantly BI analytics and AI tools just coming out nonstop.
Thousands. And the inbox is thick.
Yeah. And they'll eat each other up and merge. And once they get a good client base, they'll come together and products will evolve. I don't think a lot of those tools, to be honest, are that advanced yet. I mean, graphically, it's no better than putting a Tableau on your Snowflake database and getting whatever you can out of it. But yeah.
So is anybody here a Office Copilot user, 365? Okay, we got one. Anybody use Microsoft Dynamics? Okay, I see 2. What was it? 10 months ago, something like that. I spoke at a developer conference, and at the time, one of the speakers had been an early user of Copilot, also using Dynamics, and he was saying, so of course we're having all of our meetings, our client calls, etc., in Teams. Those things are recorded. I believe it was Copilot was doing the transcription, and he said at the time, it's not quite to the point where it will write my follow-up email, for example, but I can output from the summary transcription a all of the tasks that I need to put into Planner or Project. And then I can also, because of Copilot's application to Dynamics, I can also do things like I know what to order for lunch when I have a meeting. I can get insight into when I should follow up, why I should follow up, and so on. Now, a friend of mine, having come from Seattle, this is probably not surprising. A friend of mine is a consultant on Copilot. So I hear now and then about what's coming next, sort of. And one thing as it relates to data for small teams, I realize there is a financial hurdle to get over with tools like this. But I would not be surprised if in the future a relatively robust tool set like Office 365, for example, enables you through your Azure database or Power BI or whatever it is to go to a more or less no-code model where you can kind of, do, like if anybody uses Looker Studio here, you can pick like the basic outline that you want for a Google Analytics report or something of that nature. And it really wouldn't surprise me if it's like, for a 10-person company that's not going to have a data person, if you're willing to spend the $1,000 a month or whatever it is, that you can get yourself to the point where you have just so much more capabilities that your general office admin or your one-person marketing team or whatever it is can suddenly get insights into the data, can handle marketing reports or any number of things. But as of right now, I do a fair amount of like file cleanup in ChatGPT. I'll take 2 files and I'll say, here's the one file that's my template. I want you to take this other file and make it look like that file. For example, like split out first name, last name into 2 columns, or clean up the mailing address or whatever. That's really easy to handle in ChatGPT. However, we get back around to, we might have legal considerations if there's certain PII or who knows what in that area.